FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Gary Lutz. Today's March 13th, 2018. As always, we invite you to be part of the show. Just write us. Our email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, you've heard him on the show many times before. His last book, Great News for America, and now he's following it up with he had another book that will shortly become a classic of political commentary, or so I'm predicting. His name is Dr. Gerard Lameiro. The book is More Great News for America. Hey, Gerard, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's great to be back with you. We have great conversation.
Absolutely. So if you remember, going back about a month and a half, we talked and we both agreed that Trump was going to propose another round of tax cuts. I was kind of expecting it to come after the midterms, but probably makes sense that bring my Republican Congress back and you will get yet more tax relief. Here we are, life imitating us, and he announces 2 days ago, phase 2 is coming.
Right. I think his overall approach is when you can't get everything through that you want, you build part of the golf course, you build part of the building, and you continue with more buildings and more phases. For example, in the tax rule, I think the same thing's going to happen with Obamacare. He couldn't get the whole thing abolished the way he liked, and he's doing it in pieces.
Yeah, he's not the kind of person that gives up. You know, if at first you don't succeed in Washington, run away and bury your head in the sand and leave it for somebody else, make it their problem. But that doesn't seem to be the way Trump conducts business, does it?
No, I think he gets as much done as he possibly can, and he just keeps building on that as his support grows and as the country does well, because he has pushed it in a positive direction. We all know the situation with the economy has improved radically since his election. We also know that things like regulations have been cut dramatically since his election, and that's having a beneficial impact on the economy as well. And those are just 2 areas. There are a lot of other areas he's made a great impact as well.
Hey, wait a second. I was under the impression that this is the Obama economy and that all the good things that are happening is directly a result of Obama's socialist policies. Do I have that wrong?
Yeah, you do.
Wait a second. No.
It's the opposite.
Tell me
Obama
it ain't
had
so.
everything to do with keeping the economy in the tank, keeping it in as slow as it could possibly go. You remember we were told that we had to put up with like GDP numbers in the 1% range. Mm-hmm. That was a good year with Obama, and now we're looking at 3-4%, and it's up and to the right. That's the way the curve looks. It looks up and to the right. It's not going down. It's going up.
How can that be? They said that the tax cut was going to only favor the rich and that no one else would be profiting by it. What did we miss here?
Well, the fact is that was a great corporate tax cut, and in reality, 80% of people who have a tax return to even bother with are getting cuts in their actual taxes. Their take-home pay has gone up a little bit because they don't have to have as much taken out, and so most people are actually feeling something good. But in addition, there's more investment in the economy, which means more jobs. Not only that, but a lot of people are able to pay more. And we're seeing boosts of minimum wage. The left had been arguing to force people to pay everyone $15 an hour. Now the corporations say, sure, we'll give them $15 an hour. It's no big deal. We got the money. And so it's just a different mindset. And the left is totally out of touch with the economic realities of America, or the world for that matter.
Yeah, well, when has the left ever been in touch?
They're not in touch.
So
just like Hollywood. Hollywood's not in touch, but we expect that because they live in fantasy land. That's all fantastic stories. That isn't reality. Hollywood is just entertainment.
Yeah. Well, they say politics, Gerard, is Hollywood for the ugly.
Yeah.
So tell us, the book coming out, More Great News for America. You're listening to our guest here, Dr. Gerard Lameiro. What other good news can we expect here?
Well, there's a lot in the new book. The new book is actually crammed full of stuff. It also has a bunch of pages at the end with references for people that want to dive into things in more detail. The first thing I do in the book is spend some time on polls. People have been living and dying, so to speak, by polls. And I go through why the polls haven't been right, why they weren't right in 2016, why they're not right now, and why the presidential approval ratings are too low for Donald Trump. And I go through polls, and I don't do it mathematically, statistically, and give people a bunch of equations to turn them off. I'm writing this for people who listen to us when we talk on radio, podcast, or whatever. And so I talk about that. I talk about how I do forecast models and why those are much more accurate. Okay, then I go into, so what are the trends we're going to see coming up in the next year or two? And what can we expect to happen? What are some of the things we can expect to happen? And I go through some pretty dramatic predictions. In my old book, Great News for America, I made 10 predictions, 9 came true, which is pretty good.
Yeah. And
this book, More Great News for America, I make 8 new predictions, and once again, they're big and bold. And out of those 8, I think all 8 will come true. And let me give you one to shock people, and that is the complete end, shutdown, demise of the Democratic Party is in the near future. And that is a dramatic statement, but I look at it in detail in the book and explain why I think the Democratic Party is going to close up. Okay, financially, they have been left in tatters. In terms of the small contributors, which is a big part of donations, those are $200 and less donations. People who donate $25, the small contributors are really down in the Democratic Party. They've got a couple of rich billionaires that help them, but it's not enough when you're losing the support of the people, and they're losing their identity politics. That's breaking up. They're losing some of their key constituencies and some of their key groups that have been pretty strong to support them in the past. Trump, for example, is making headway with both black voters and Hispanics. He's growing in support. They are losing support. And I go through the entire case, but the bottom line is I expect the Democratic Party to go out of business. A party does not have to last forever. The Whigs was a great party in the time of Andrew Jackson, but by the time of Abraham Lincoln, it was gone. And the same thing here. Democrats have been around for a long time, but they happen to stay in touch with the American people. The current Democratic Party is totally out of touch with the mainstream voters in this country, and the mainstream voters are, generally speaking, regardless of a few elections they win here and there, they got to win a few, I guess, is basically rejecting them, and they will continue to reject them. And overall, they're rejecting them financially and in other ways, and it's going to go out of business.
All right. So what comes next? And I know that's probably not a prediction that's in there. Is it a more center-left party, or is it just more of the same, even further left than the current Democratic Party?
Nope. Believe it or not, that's all in there. That's in the new book, More Great News for America. Okay, the next big prediction that's related to that, and there's 8 predictions, is the Republican Party, which has for years had a San Andreas fault running down the middle of it. That Republican Party is going to split into 2 separate parties. There's going to be a conservative party emerge out of it, and there's going to be a Republican progressive party emerge. And what's going to happen is a few of the more moderate Democrats who used to be in the Democratic Party, when that goes, they're going to join the Republican progressives. So some of the old Democrat progressives will join the Republican progressives. People like Mitch McConnell, John Kasich, John McCain, those kind of folks, Lindsey Graham, I would guess will be in the Republican Progressive Party. And the main party, though, the ones where most people are going to be supporting, leadership positions, that will be in the Conservative Party. So I think there's going to be two separate parties. The Conservatives will become the new majority party. The Republican Progressives, which is used to losing, by the way.
Yeah, they're very good at it. In fact,
they're great at it.
They mastered it.
They're going to become the minority party. The Democratic Party is going to go out of existence. It just plain won't exist. And some of the radical who love socialism and Marxism and communism, they may join the Socialist USA Today party, or Socialist USA Party, but that party has, it's inconsequential in elections. They don't get hardly anything in the way of votes. And some of the radical leftists who are big on environmental issues, they may join the Green Party and that. But the ones who are moderate Democrats of the past, they'll join the Republican progressives.
Amazing. So, well, that's assuming that a lot of them aren't in jail, which is, let's hear some more predictions.
Okay, well, let's see. What else would be of interest? Well, what I call the 4 R's are going to take over. We are in now a conservative era. I predicted that in 2015 when I wrote my last book, and I explained all about American constitutional eras. We're moving into a conservative, well, we're in it now, and it's growing, a conservative era. We're going to have a Supreme Court, with a supermajority of conservatives on it, constitutional conservatives. We know about 3, possibly even 4 more appointments await President Trump during his term of office. And they're going to be constitutional conservatives.
Really?
So we're going to turn, in terms of jurisprudence, we are going to move toward much more conservative America.
Really?
Because a lot of the Ninth Circuit's going to get overturned left and right. In fact, I think the Ninth Circuit in a few more years will be broken up into 2 circuits, which when they do that, they'll also be able to cut the number of judges who are radical. And, the Congress has control over the courts, basically. And I think the Ninth Circuit is unwieldy. It takes too long to get a case through it. It needs to be broken up. It also needs to be made a little bit more consistent with other judges in other places, which means more conservative, basically.
Yeah. Well, look at the feverish pace they're appointing judges, proving them, sending them to the Senate, and Senate's voting on them like nobody's business, like they've never done before. So that could very well be a reality. And so what about all of these people being prosecuted for all the crimes that they've done before? You got any projections about that, Doctor?
Well, we are in a conservative era, and law and order is part of a conservative principle. So I expect that people who choose to disobey the law are going to pay a price. And I think you're going to see that continually happening. There's also something I call the Conservative Enlightenment that I think is part of this era. And the Conservative Enlightenment, this may interest your listeners, deals with 4 big religious and cultural trends in America that I think are very significant. And they may surprise. This book is going to surprise some people because it's not conventional wisdom. It's my forecast for what's going on. And I'm looking ahead. So I'm not looking at what happened in the past as much as I'm looking at what is happening moving forward. So I'm a forecaster. Mm-hmm. And the Conservative Enlightenment portion of this new era that we're in has 4 R's, the letter R. One is return to faith in God. There are a lot of people who dropped out of church, dropped out of synagogue, and they're not feeling good. They're not getting any warm fuzzies out of the secular socialist movement. They're missing something in their life. And I think there is a trend toward returning to faith in God, returning to church and synagogue. Then there's also a renaissance of reason. I think people are fed up with junk science and its impact on our lives in order to get politically correct answers. I'm talking about things like climate control, global warming, global cooling, global change, all those silly things that were models that were hoaxes to result in politically correct policies. Then there's a restoration of education, which I think is a wonderful thing. And restoration of education is the trend toward, and this is really a big change that's about to happen, where pressure is placed on colleges and universities to allow free speech for change. Because we all know cases of students that were browbeaten because they didn't follow correct politically ideological themes, in their papers, in their talks, in their activities. And there is a strong trend that's really going to blossom in the next few years, which will restore true education and replace indoctrination, colleges and universities, and also K through 12. There are a lot of liberals, a lot of Marxists that are in our educational system, but there are a lot of Americans who basically disagree and are putting pressure on those folks to change. And that pressure is going to increase dramatically. And you will see, I believe, a restoration of education.
But Gerard, wait a second. I'm really concerned here because where's a student going to find a safe space if they can't find it at the university?
That's right. They may get triggered.
Yeah.
They may get triggered. They'll have to turn on CNN and go in a cocoon. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
By the way, there's a fourth R, is the rebirth of morality, freedom, peace, and prosperity. Those are the basic DNA of American citizens. They want morality in their government. They want freedom for themselves. They want peace in their country and peace with other nations. And they want prosperity. And we're already seeing prosperity blooming. But the other things will be blooming too. They want morality in Washington. They want the swamp drained. And I think eventually it will be. It's taking a while. And I think appointing Jeff Sessions was probably the biggest mistake to get it cleaned up quickly, because recusing himself and then not taking more definitive action has slowed things down. And, Tillerson lost his job yesterday. It wouldn't surprise me if Sessions loses his job in the near future.
I think this is a job for Rudy Giuliani or Chris Christie.
Right.
Yeah. They know how to work the levers.
They wouldn't mess around.
For sure. But I don't know if you've been watching the QAnon posts on YouTube or not, and they're coming out. But supposedly and I'm not convinced totally, but I'm leaning more to believing it than not. But there's a plan taking place under the surface, behind the scenes, to basically purge thousands of these illegals out of the government, people who've turned on the Constitution, and hold them accountable. And if it works the way this person seems to imply that it's going to, it really could be great news for America.
Well, I'll tell you, I think these trends are there. How they manifest themselves in every situation, I don't necessarily know, but I know overall trends are moving in those directions. And I think certainly something like that you just mentioned is a real possibility of accomplishing that trend, in that one area. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that actually does turn out to be correct, the QAnon notes.
Yeah. Hey, well, it would be fascinating to see. Hey, one final prediction here for our cogitation, for our collective enlightenment here, Doctor?
Well, I know your folks probably like to talk about the economy. I would say that I believe we're actually going to hit, during the Trump term of office, 4.5% GDP.
4 to 5%? Did I hear that right? Or is my
4.5?
All right, still not too shabby there, is it?
No, and I'm not saying it won't go above that, but I'm saying it'll hit at least that.
Wow, that would be pretty darn right miraculous in and of itself. Tell us where we find the book.
They can buy it at Amazon, print, or Kindle. It's more Great News for America, and they can also go to my website and buy it there, greatnewsforamerica.com, greatnewsforamerica.com. And the new book is More Great News for America, and it's only been out about a week, and it's selling really well, and it's a real look at the next year or two in the future, and I think a lot of people want to see that look ahead and see, since I've been right in the past, they figure it's worth reading this one, see if I'll be right again.
All right. Well, hey, I can't wait to watch your predictions come true, just like they did before, especially seeing the anti-U.S. party dissolve into nothingness, which is what they stand for, nothing. And I'm not being political in saying that. I mean, they're both kleptocratic institutions, both parties, and purging out and really getting down to the basics of what you stand for and what you're willing to fight for is going to make so much of a difference for all of us out there. Dr. Lameiro, it's great to have you on. Hey, as I said before, always we invite your emails. Just send it to KL@KerryLutz.com. The Twitter feed's @KerryLutz. The Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Dr. Lameiro, always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you again soon. Can't wait to read the book.
Sounds great. Remember, there's more great news for America coming soon.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.